Guess what I'm knitting? It's socks. I am using these little short needles, shorties I believe they are called, and I am somehow in the possession of 3 different brands of shorties. So I thought it might be a nice idea to compare knitting with the 3 brands to see what the difference is, if there is one, and at the same time, as these short needles tend to have one long and a short needle and nobody seems to agree on which side is the best to use, to also check on that. So what do we have right now? I am knitting with the Addi ones, but I also have KnitPro, and I also have the only ones who actually brand their name on the needle. It is Chiaogoo, I believe, Chiaogoo. So these are the 3 brands that are here right now. I'll be getting this one out so we can actually see the difference. So here they are in order of least to most bendy, I suppose. These are the Chiaogoos. They have 2 ends that are basically equal in size as far as I can tell. But one is supposed to be pointier than the other. I believe this one is the sharper tip and this one is a slightly more blunt one. But honestly, I am hardly able to tell the difference. The connecting cord is some kind of plastic and the quality is rather good. It is firm. And well, it seems like a nice needle, but there is no difference in the 2 ends. So if I compare this with the KnitPro one, this is the shortest end of the KnitPro, which is slightly less big, and this is the long end, which is of course a lot bigger. And if you then compare to the Addi, it is once again longer than the short ends and shorter than the long ends. So if you've ever tried one of the other 2 and you found, you know, yourself in a Goldilocks situation, this one might be nice for you. But the little connecting string is quite different from my experience with other round knitting needles. So that's an interesting one. We will see how it performs. Then we have this one, KnitPro Zing, I believe, of which I have most of my needles actually, because I am very fond of the fact that all the different sizes have different colors and they correspond across the different types of needle. So it's very easy for me to know that I need the purple needle, etc. for a certain size. So these are the 2 millimeters right now on the sock, the 2.5 millimeters, put them on there to rest for a bit while I do this video. So these are dark red and these are pink. Now, these were my first ones and they were actually the ones that I used a lot, but I did keep running into trouble with here how it goes from the cord to the needle itself. Some types of wool just kept getting stuck and it wasn't really a fluid and pleasant knitting experience. So we're going to see how it performs in a bit once I am actually knitting the sock. Compare that here. This is really a fluid crossing between the 2 types of material. So we'll see if that performs better, this Chiaogoo one, than the KnitPro. And then we have Addi, of which I have the, what do you call those again, Crazy Trio flexi tip needles as well, which I am very fond of and might also do a little comparison video on. So that's why I also got one of these. I can't see the size, which annoys me. Like this has it, probably can't see on the video, but this has it clearly printed on the side. It's 2 millimeters. Over here, less nicely printed on the Chiaogoo ones. But if you squint and you twist it a bit in the light, you can see it is in fact a 2.25 millimeter needle. These are 2 millimeter ones. I know this because it's the only pair that I have. And oh, there it is. It actually is printed on the side, but it is very, very faint. And I only saw it as the light caught it just then. So KnitPro does win in terms of visibility. Now, the cord here is some kind of plastic, completely different than this one, which is like some kind of string coated in plastic. This one is also plastic. This one, the KnitPro one, is a bit harder, a bit less flexible. This one is more flexible, but this time it wasn't my total ribbit in it, which happened to the Addi Crazy Trio ones, but somehow it has gotten bent. I think even before I received it. So it's really not laying nicely on its own. I haven't tried putting it above some steam or what have you, because it hasn't actually bothered me while I was knitting, but before I started knitting with it for the first time, I was a bit worried that these Addi ones would be less pleasant because of the way the cord has creased. Now, when it comes to the difference between the plastic cord and the needle itself, it also feels quite fluid, not as fluid as the Chiaogoo ones. My nail catches this a very little bit. Over here it catches it a bit more, and these just catch my needle in both directions. My nail in both directions. So this one is the least pleasant one of the three in that regard. But we'll see how it holds up once we're actually knitting in the round with these. I'll start with the Chiaogoos because these have no difference in the two sides, unless maybe sharpness and bluntness, but I'm really not sure. I feel like this end feels a bit sharper than this one, but the difference is absolutely minimal. I don't know if there's difference. I really doubt if there's difference. If there is a difference, I can't tell. But we'll see how it holds up once I'm actually knitting with these. So here. Okay, we are now on the Chiaogoos. And that is a cat. Hello, cat. So we are now on the Chiaogoos, and the first thing I notice is that they feel a little bit coarse in a way. The needles don't feel smooth, which is weird because I don't feel it when I just rub them with my fingers. But as soon as the yarn is gliding over it, it feels like it's like a little bit coarse, a bit like rough paper, which I think might be nice if you have very slippery yarn, that this actually does provide some grip. But I don't really like it. It's a little bit of a bad feel for me personally. It feels like, yeah, the feeling you have when you are just about to snag some fabric or break it. I don't like it. I don't dislike it enough to like never use these needles ever again, but I don't like it. It feels weird. It's a bit rough. Now when it comes to size, I am knitting a 56 stitch sock on a 2mm needle. Well, 2.2 2¼ right now, I think these Chiaogoos are. So I don't have the biggest circumference, and it's, you know, fits perfectly, as you can see, and it's very comfortable for me. But I can imagine if you are in the habit of knitting 64 stitch socks, this might be getting a little bit cramped or a bit uncomfortable. So I can't advise you on that. I have enough room and I don't have to stretch the stitches to make the circumference, and I also have enough room for the stitches not to fall off. So for my dainty little woman's sock, I am experiencing no problem with the circumference, but I might imagine that if you're doing bigger things, that might be a problem. I also sometimes see these needles advertised as being for sleeves, and I'm not sure at what point you would be transferring your needles in order to be able to fit an arm through there. Yeah, I don't know. So Chiaogoo, the length of the needles is fine, but again, I also have small hands, and I like knitting with these small circumference needles because of my small hands and because of the fact that it's very hard to lose one of these on the train, in contrast to if you knit with several needles. Ask me how I know. So these are fine. I like how tough the cord is, but I don't like the rough feeling. Maybe if I had some very slippery yarn, maybe I wouldn't mind, but right now I will only break these out if I really need a 2.25, I suppose, or if I somehow manage to lose my other ones. But I don't like the roughness of the needles, personally. We've now switched everything around. The long needle is on the right, the short needle is on the left. I do think it's a bit more comfortable for my hands this way. A bit more of a relaxed position to be in. Other than that, not that much of a difference. Still a thing with the stitches not sliding on as quickly as I would hope, as fluidly as I would hope. And also, of course, on the table, maybe it would be different if the sock was hanging higher. Still have to continue pushing those on, actually. So not that much of a difference, honestly. Maybe just the camera now can no longer see me. There's also a small roughness on the needles themselves. They're not very smooth, but they're definitely not as rough as the Chiaogoo ones. I have not yet got my yarn on the needle itself, which is good, because it was an annoyance of mine in previous socks, but they're behaving on camera, so that's all good. And yeah, I do think that maybe long needle on the right is actually the way to go. So good to know. We live and learn. I'm not seeing or feeling anything about the cord that is a bit messed up, but that's fine. So these do provide a bit of a smooth ride. I'm currently knitting with the small end in my right hand on my working needle, and it's fine. I also have to push the stitches forward, but it's not as much of a conscious decision as with the KnitPro ones. I think it's because the edge between the cord and the needle is a lot smoother here. So Addi wins so far. I am going to do a little switch around and see if once again the longer needle in the right hand feels better or not. Okay, so now we're at the Addi needles and also having the longest needle in the right hand. And I do think this provides a cat. It provides a cat. It's a great cat. The cat is great. Hi cat. Lubas. Remember the cat from one of the previous videos? He's fine now. He still doesn't have hair. But he's social now. He will be up for adoption soon. He's great. He likes knuffels now en attention. Lucas, ga eens van de tafel alsjeblieft. Lucasje toch, kreeg je niet genoeg aandacht? Poesie. Absolutely fine. Anyway, so having the longer needle in the right hand is quite pleasant. These needles are very smooth, and even though the cord was a bit janky, I don't really notice it while I'm knitting. I also didn't really notice any difference in cord length. I do think you can buy most of these in different lengths. Again, if you're usually using these for sleeves and you know your average sleeve circumference, you can probably get them like that, but I'm getting these for socks. And so the standard size that I was able to get in my shops was fine. So even though I really like KnitPro's color system, which carries over to the different needles that I have, and I really like the cord used by the Chiaogoos, I do think the Addi ones are my favorites, mostly because of the feel of how smooth the needles are and the fact that everything just flows very smoothly with these needles. So for me, if I were to need a new size, for example, I would probably go with Addi's. I hope you find this enlightening. Adopt, don't shop.